Good day, everyone, and welcome to Graviteam's latest DLC, Fateful Strike. Now, Fateful Strike is a snapshot of the Second Battle of Kharkov, which was the Soviet offensive operation that was an attempt to encircle and crush the German Sixth Army. It was launched specifically on May the 12th, but by the 15th and 16th it had largely petered out, and by the 17th the Germans had launched their own counteroffensive. It was called Operation Fredericarus, and I'm sure I pronounced that completely wrong, but in any case, it was a huge success. I think every single Soviet soldier that penetrated into the salient was pretty much either captured or killed. There were 250,000 Soviet casualties total. So, not a very good day for the Soviets. Huge winner, though, for the Wehrmacht. The reason the attack was successful, aside from the stubborn defense from the Sixth Army, was the Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe was actually a huge factor in the success of the German army for the Second Battle of Kharkov. They had direct communications with the Sixth Army, and many times they were able to respond to support requests within 20 minutes. And in the 40s, that was huge. We are going to be starting on the 17th of May, which, as I just said, was already after Operation Fredericarus had first launched, but we're going to be on the defensive, though, in this small snapshot, Fateful Strike. You can look at our objectives right here, here, and here. And you can see that we're in possession of all of them, and the Red Army is going to be coming up with their spearhead from the south. Now, I did check the forums before I downloaded this DLC, and a lot of the Wehrmacht players said that it was a very tough fight, especially the very first few turns. They said the Soviet army just came through and steamrolled them, really reamed them with the T-34s and KVs. So it's going to be a challenging fight, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll go ahead and just hop into that. And before we do, I do want to let you know that I'm going to be doing a new format of videos on Graviteam. If you've had the chance to watch some of my previous videos, you've seen that a lot of the times, I'll do part 1, part 2, and I'll show every single engagement, and then the operation just slowly starts to peter out. And that's because, truthfully, this is a huge undertaking to record all of these. So what I want to go ahead and do is just try to put the entire operation into one video and condense it, which hopefully will work out better for you, the viewer, as well, because some of the more boring parts are going to get cut out. But if you could just let me know in the comments what you think about the new format, I'd really appreciate it. The feedback will just let me know if you like the new format or not, what works, what doesn't work, because I'm still trying to figure the channel out, and I just, above all, want to make sure I give you the best quality content that I can. So on that side note, we'll go ahead and continue on. Let's go ahead and look at our briefing by clicking this checkmark box. You can see specifically that we're going to be attacked by the 48th Tank Brigade and the 5th Guards Tank Brigade. And if you look at our battle groups, we're pretty much infantry. You can tell from the counters, the X right there is infantry, if you're not aware. Here's some artillery, anti-tank guns, and these are self-propelled guns. I don't want to move any of my battle groups here on this southern line because I want to go ahead and try to hold these objectives and stop that spearhead, or at least slow it for as long as I can. And if you look at these half semicircle brown lines, that means the battle groups are entrenched, and that's invaluable on defense. So I don't want to move these battle groups and have them lose their entrenchment. I do see over here, though, this battle group is separated. It's cut off, or it's not cut off, but it's separated. I want to go ahead and move him up here so he doesn't end up getting cut off. And I'm going to go ahead and move these anti-tank units down here, self-propelled guns down here as well, because I want to go ahead and put everything I can into this initial defense. We're going to be getting reinforcements after a few turns, and a lot of it's this heavy armor right here, and you got light armor right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put everything out of the front, concentrate everything. I'm not going to hold anything back. Right here is the Infantry Division HQ. You cannot move divisional HQs. I'm right-clicking, nothing happens. Up here is the 132nd Infantry Regiment HQ. Now, regimental HQs you can move, so I'm going to go ahead and push them forward. Push up this battle group so it can begin coming up in support. And I want to go ahead and see specifically what these battle groups are composed of. They got the typical infantry platoons, but you can see at the bottom they have anti-tank weaponry. So we're not completely defenseless. Anti-tank weaponry again, more anti-tank, and more anti-tank. So we're not, like I said, completely defenseless. And this is the 261st Infantry Regiment, 261st, 261st. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find them on this screen because I want to see specifically what the caliber of the anti-tank weapons are. Here's the 261st Infantry Regiment. Those are those battle groups we were just looking at. Here's our anti-tank gun platoons, and it's 5cm and 3.7cm pack guns. Now, it's early 1942, but the T-34s were already rolled out by this time, so we're probably going to see a lot of lighter tanks. They were still in action in early 1942, but I'm willing to bet there's probably some T-34s mixed in there. Might even be up to 50% T-34s. So ideally, you'd like to have a 7.5cm AT gun, a Pack 40, which it looks like, I don't think these have them either. Their sister units is probably, 5cm, 3.7cm. You really want a 7.5cm gun to fight a T-34. You can be at ranges beyond 500 meters and hit it head on and still have a chance at penetration. With a 5cm, you have to be I'd like to be within 200 meters, hit it from the side or from the back to be effective. So we're going to have to be into an ambush stance if we want to have any chance at slowing the Red Army's roll here. Looking at the ammunition, it looks like we're stocked up and good. Fatigue's going to be a factor. They're very tired. A lot of these units are only at 20%. That's going to play a huge part in this next battle, but it does look like we have a full complement of soldiers in each platoon. I'm going to check, what was it? Self-propelled guns. Yeah, the 244 self-propelled gun battle group, probably Stugs, and they are, so that's going to help us out a little bit. And then we had that anti-tank battle group I moved up as well. Let's see. Here it is, 128th anti-tank. They're 5cm as well. Yeah, and they have machine gun support. Now, the 3.7cm is pretty much useless against something like a T-34. It might help against really light tanks, but against a T-34, it's not doing nothing. But we'll just see what we run into. They have full ammo and fuel as well. Now, while I'm on this screen, one thing I am going to do is make sure that my company commanders are assigned. You can right-click this check mark to show their support unit, and I'm going to give them reinforcement support wherever I can. There as well, because reinforcement support, you'll see it's tool-tipped, it gives you artillery support, off-map artillery support, or air spotters, and that is just a huge buff to give your units, so I like to assign that whenever I can to my command platoons. So we'll just go through and do that. It's a little bit of a click fest, a little bit of micromanaging, but you do what you have to do. And then I'm going to show you a trick in a second, how to assign all the support units to these individual platoons so it's not such a click fest. Give them reinforcement support as well. Actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and keep them with their mobility so they can keep trucks. Okay, so all of our company commanders have artillery or air support available when we go into combat. And you can see here, though, we can still assign more support units to these individual platoons. Now, I could right-click and select these all manually. It looks like these are all just trucks, like mobility. But if you go to this icon right here, you can click it, and you'll see these 3 men with a little arrow. If you just left-click it, it will do it automatically. It will set your optimal reinforcement strategies automatically. So we can just click through these, and you'll see that's what's going to be set up for you. And it looks like in most of our cases, now see right here, this gives you some artillery. So that was done automatically. So it's not all, in this case it looks like it was a lot of trucks and stuff that the units were getting, but it also assigned artillery in that case. And in my experience, it's not worth the micromanagement to go through and do this individually, except for when you're assigning those spotters, those artillery spotters. But the computer does a pretty effective job, so I just do it this way because it's a lot faster. Okay, so it looks like we're all set up. We'll go ahead and exit out of that screen, and we'll go ahead and end the turn. So we got a little bit of pincer movement coming in here, and this is going to be the perimeter of our first engagement. Now, before I get into this engagement, I do want to make a small mention of these semi-transparent black squares, because a lot of players, including myself, are not aware of this until recently. Whenever you see these on an engagement map, it just means that this particular square, the ownership cannot be transferred after the engagement. So like, we're in possession of this square right here, and even if I left all of my troops, if all my troops left this area and the Red Army just steamrolled through it. Still, after the end of the turn, I would maintain possession of this square and this square. Just keep that in mind whenever you're playing yourself. As far as what I'm thinking tactically in this engagement, I'm going to try to go ahead and put these troops into a nice ambush position. And if we can go ahead and take out a few of the tanks in the spearhead, that'd be great. But I'm not too worried about holding the position because there are no objectives in this point. And if the Red Army takes these positions, I'm still safe from complete encirclement. I'm not going to be cut off. I'm only going to hold this position if it's feasible and if I can achieve it with minimal losses. Okay, so in the earlier engagement, we were completely overran by at least a platoon of T-34s. It may have been more than that. It was difficult to tell because it was low light conditions, and we just went ahead and withdrew. Every single one of our AT guns were knocked out, including our 5-centimeter packs, and we were completely ineffective against the T-34s. They rolled right over top of us. I don't even think we damaged one T-34, but it was still rolling at the end of the engagement. So now we're going to try over on this side as well. Now, if you remember, there is no objectives on these squares, so if I have to withdraw these troops, I will. We're just going to see if we can slow them a little bit with our AT weapons and maybe have a little more success than we did in that other engagement. We'll go ahead and place, and normally I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to show you how I place my units just because I want to give you an idea of what I do. We'll put the commander of this anti-tank platoon, and you can see the counter for anti-tank is right here. Right there, I like to tell the commanders of platoons not to fire and tell them to remain hidden and to stay concealed so they don't reveal their position. This is our 3.7 pack gun, which again, is just completely ineffective against everything except the lightest of tanks. Well, actually, let's go ahead and put our AT guns over here. This looks like a better firing position. We'll hide the commander here. 3.7 centimeter, we'll put them here. In these yellow squares that can provide a little bit of concealment. 3.7 here, and then our 5 centimeter, which is basically going to be the only AT weapon that's going to be effective at all if it is another platoon of T-34s. We'll place them, let's see, right here. You'll see these hash marks. That's how far the unit is supposed to be able to see in each direction if they are placed on that square, but I like to get down on their level just so I can see it myself. This looks like a good position. I'm going to tell all these, I'm going to go ahead and control click so I can select all these AT units. I'm going to tell them not to fire at will and remain hidden and stay concealed. I'm also going to set up a firing cone for them by hitting the V button and then right-clicking and dragging and set them. I don't want them to fire outside of 200 meters, really. So right there, and you can click on each unit and see their firing cone. So that means they will not fire, like on this 5 centimeter pack, it will not fire on T-34s that are outside of that cone. It's going to wait till it's within range right here. And hopefully those units will remain hidden. They won't be seen by any incoming tanks until they are right on top of them and they have a chance of penetrating. All of these other units, I'm going to remove to the back, right here behind the tree line. More than likely, if the T-34s come rolling, they're going to come down this road, down this way. They might expand out a little bit to check out the tree line. The AT weapons will do what they can, and these units can withdraw if they need to. We'll just place them all here. And I'm going to keep them all hidden. Tell none of them to fire at will. Hidden. Tell them not to fire at will. We have 4 10.5 centimeter artillery pieces, so let's see if we can find where he's at. Go to the company commander. And there he is right there. And that's when we assigned those support units and we did the reinforcement strategy of reinforcement support. So that gives you this artillery spotter. We'll place him, we want to place him in a spot where he has a good field of view. I'm actually this might be a little risky, but I'm going to put him over here so he can maybe get those tanks as they come down the road. Let's see. Look for some hash marks where he has good visibility. I don't see any. I'd like to get at least a 3 hash mark. Here's one right here. We'll get down on his level to see what he can see. And it's a pretty decent field of view once you get up to this point right here. So we'll go ahead and select his field of fire. You can right click on the box and then right click and drag to set it up. We'll set it right along that road. We want to make sure you're using high explosives. I don't want to use smoke or flares or incendiary. And I want to go ahead and left click here, and each gun will shoot 15 shells, which is just a good number to start with. And we will do it after 5 minutes. Got that set. It's scheduled support. A lot of times it doesn't have to be scheduled. You can actually set up to shoot it when you want, but this is scheduled, so we just have to hope that it's timed effectively. And let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like we finally spotted one unit crossing through here right as the sun's rising. It looks like an infantry unit. We'll just keep these two platoons right here concealed. Tell them not to fire at will. I'm going to hope that this infantry walks right into our units here and not into our anti-tank units. If they do, I'm going to try to bring these guys up in support. Hopefully they'll walk right into them though. And again, you see how they're flashing. That means that they're not going to fire at will. And we are hidden. I'm going to see if I can get a spotter. So what I'll do is I'll hold down the Alt button and click on this squad. And you can see when you hold down the Alt button, it selects a subsection of the squad, not the entire squad. I'm going to hit Control 1 to assign that subsection, so I can hit 1 and it draws them up. And now I can move only these two units. And I'm going to see if I can have them sneak up to this position and get a better look and see what they can find. So I can right click here on the order wheel. And I don't want them to move fast. I just want them to move covertly, as slow as possible. Okay, so there's an orange flare shot by the Soviets. Let's go ahead and redirect these two guys right here to this position. Now what I'm also going to do, you'll see this little guy with the U-turn inside of his head. I'm going to right click that to disable it for these two guys. This basically means that if they get out of range of their commander, at least as far as it applies to infantry, if they get out of range of their commander, they are going to try to find their commander, and that means they would just go to a position and return if they got out of range. I don't want that to happen. I want these guys just to stay up here on their own and not do anything afterwards, so I want to disable that option.
Da drüben!
Right on top of them. Fire at will. Here's our tanks up here. I do not want those ATs to fire on them yet. They're probably T-34s.
And no, looks like 2 KV-1s and a bunch of T-26s.
Tell these units to go ahead and open fire. And we'll go ahead and have all these infantry units open fire and no longer remain hidden. You don't want them to stay hidden once they're in actual combat, because if they try to stay hidden, their firepower is reduced dramatically.
Generally, the only time you want your troops to remain hidden while in combat is if you're in a situation where you're greatly outnumbered or you're trying to hold out for a prolonged period of time. And if you're in a situation where instead of trying to win the engagement, you're just trying to hold out and buy some time in an engagement.
So there's just a huge amount of armor rolling through. Man. We're going to lose all these AT units. It's going to have to be a necessary sacrifice. Alright, let's go ahead and open up. Maybe they can take out a few of these armor units. just completely ineffective. There's just so much of a numerical superiority. There's not much you can do. Our 5cm still in operation, though. We'll see what he can do. Go ahead and tell him to fire it. Well, I'm going to remove that cone. Just no chance. So this armor is just rolling. It's not all light tanks either. I'm going to go ahead and withdraw our troops. We lost our anti-tank weapons, but I don't want to lose that company that we have just hiding back here in these trenches. We're going to withdraw. Again, not too bad of a loss because we haven't lost any actual objective points. Okay, so that early morning turn didn't quite go how I would have liked. We were undergunned, but I would have hoped our 5cm guns could have successfully ambushed at least a couple of tanks. The problem we just ran into was a very common one for the Germans, especially in Barbarossa, and even later on into the war, which is kind of what we just experienced. For all the logistical training and ammunition problems the early T-34s faced, that sloped armor was a real bitch to penetrate, and we just saw that in action. There's a book called Tank Warfare on the Eastern Front by Robert Forchek, and I really enjoy it and suggest you check it out as well if you're into that type of history. And he goes into some detail about how the Wehrmacht was constantly undergunned against Soviet armor. The T-34 and KV tanks appeared in the final third wave. When the armor struck the 256th Infantry Division, the gunners in Panzerjäger 256 quickly found that their 3.7 and 5cm anti-tank guns, the ones we were using, could not defeat the Soviet tanks at normal ranges of 500 to 600 meters. We couldn't even do it at 200. For a moment, the Germans were seized with panic at the sight of Soviet heavy tanks, and it seemed that the Red Army might actually achieve a local victory. Horst Selizna, a German war correspondent, witnessed the combat against the KV and T-34 tanks near Grodno. Then the pack guns are swung around. Their fire barks from all barrels, but these light anti-tank weapons have no effect. The shots bounce off the mighty steel walls like rubber balls. Now, the positive we can take from this engagement is we do still hold our objectives and have a bit better of an idea of what we're up against, which was that mix we saw of some T-26 light tanks, T-34 medium tanks, and KV heavies. And they did have a bit of light infantry support, but it wasn't much. So, as you can see, it is now, what time is it? 8 a.m. So let's go to the briefing and see what the game plan is for turn 2. Okay, so we can see there's even more armor coming now, aside from the 5th Tank Brigade and the 48th, which we dealt with at the 5 o'clock turn. We now, at 8 o'clock, have to deal with the 198th, the 64th, and the 199th. And as of right now, we don't have any real support coming on up. The question, I guess, now becomes if we withdraw that infantry and preserve them, or we continue to hold those two main objective points down here and let our infantry get shredded, but deny the Reds those objective points for another turn. The topography really sucked in this area. Like right here, you can see there's really no woods to provide cover, or here to provide cover. So our troops are really exposed. Here in the village center, though, you can see it's heavily wooded. We might have a little more success if we decide to hold out for another turn. So I'm thinking that's what I might end up doing. I want to look at the map, though, before I decide that. And this is really a prime example of where I think that battles are won and lost in Graviteam at this strategic level, on the strategic map and your movements on the strategic map. The tactical battles, in my opinion, are just watching your strategic decisions play out. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to our map. Okay, so we still have our infantry here. That's largely untouched, and they do still have some anti-tank defenses. Remember that 261st Infantry Regiment from the 113th that we scoped out earlier.
we have this infantry battle group, which was engaged in the combat over here. They managed to escape to the village, so they're going to be largely ineffective, but we still have these fresh units. Okay, I'm going to make a stand just because, like I said, this area is more heavily wooded than the area we initially defended, and ambushes might be quite a lot more successful. Plus, we're just going to continue this delaying action to prevent the Soviets from taking these objectives too early, maybe hold out until we get some reinforcements of our own. Let's see. I want to see actually if we have any, when our reinforcements are coming. Oh, we do have some more armor coming as well. Looks like we have, see this L? When you see these ovals on your counters, that means armor, and the L just means light. But a decent amount of Panzer IIIs, and then we have a couple Panzer IVs as well on the way. And yeah, the same here as well. So we'd be able to counter those. Maybe if not completely counter, at least take care of those T-26s and possibly some T-34s with those Panzer IVs. Looks like we might have a pretty even match coming up once we do get those reinforcements in 1 or 2 turns. So let's go ahead and get everything set up. I want to go ahead and close this little gap in the lines here. So I am going to move... Should we move... Let's move Regiment HQ over. Well, they could also penetrate through here. So we are spread a little thin. What is this? Our Stugs. I really like to keep them in the village as well. I really want my firepower concentrated here. All of it here, where there's plenty of places to hide, because even our Stugs are going to be undergunned against those T-34s and KV-1s. I'd like to, if possible, not have them engage until they're very close. But we're just, the issue is we're just so spread out. Let's go ahead for now and just move our artillery up. Let's get this infantry battle group up so they can support. And again, I can't move him because he's Division HQ. This is the Divisional HQ, and this is the Divisional HQ. You cannot move those units. It's just Divisional and above, you can't move. Before we move them, let's see. Oh, here we go. Manage check. Oh, these are the 8.8 centimeters. That's great. Okay, so I'm sure most of you watching this are aware of that, but because those issues we just had where we talked about the Wehrmacht had a really difficult time with their pack guns penetrating the armor of the T-34s and the KVs, they actually used their flat guns, their big 8.8 centimeter 88s is what they were called, flat guns against armor when they had to, and as you can see, that's what's happening in this case. So I'm kind of excited to deploy those. Let's go ahead and move them into a good defensive position. I'd really like to have been able to move them up into this square, but for now, that's going to have to do. We'll put them right here. That's excellent. That's going to provide us with some much-needed defense and penetration power against all that Soviet armor. I'd like to see what we can do, at least tactically, with some of these battle groups. You can see with this red circle emanating from that battle group that was engaged in this combat, they're in poor shape. You can see that their AT weapons are destroyed. Their infantry looks okay, though. Let's just go ahead and see what we can do to help them out. It's the 261st 113th, and it is Battle Group 1. So 261st, 113th Division, and here's the first battle group. See if we can find replacements for them. Now what you can do is if you like, you can right-click to change it, and we can see what we have for reserves that we can bring up. Now, there was some infantry surrounding us on the outskirts of the town, so maybe we can go ahead and assign some MG-34s to this battle group and possibly have a chance at holding off that infantry. However, mortars might actually be the better decision in this case because we are on slightly hilly ground. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops.
Excellent. I'm going to quickly scroll through here, see if there's any other units we can replace that are active. Let's here. Okay, let's go to our propelled guns battle group. Flak 80. That's perfect. We've got some 88s right here. That's why you always want to check this screen. These flak guns are so effective against T-34, whereas the 5 centimeters and the 3.7s aren't. We can just attach this to this self-propelled gun unit, and that's going to just increase our firepower dramatically. So it's always, always important to check that stuff out whenever possible. Let's see what else we can find on the map. Anti-tank unit here. See if we can reinforce them. It is the 128th Anti-Tank Battalion. We had. Let's see. I guess we can go ahead and assign those engineers. Let's check out the topography here. I might keep these flat guns up on top of this hill to defend because we have this infantry battle group to provide some defense. Here, another infantry battle group. So we may be able to hold this objective fairly well and make a stand here to further delay. I think instead of moving them to the town, because we have anti-tanks here that can be used in close ambush situations, we also have those flak 88s as part of this stug group. Might move him over here because if you look, let's see the topography, 220, so I'd like to put them on some high ground. Here's 200. Here's a 216, so they're still going to be up higher than us. And here's the road they'd be coming down. I'm going to go ahead and actually move these guys here. We're going to defend here. This area is so lightly defended. I want to keep this area, and I think we may be able to hold them off in this area with what we already have. Let's go ahead and start our second turn and go to the tactical battle. Okay, so this looks like we have some prime ambush locations. We might have more success preventing the Red Army from taking this important objective location. If you actually click here on the map, you can see we have this black semi-transparent square, which is great. It means that the Red Army cannot take this square no matter what. So I'm going to focus every single ounce of troops I have in this area right here, which is also where our important 2 objective points are located. These are worth actual points, so it's worth fighting and digging in this area and really trying to prevent the Red Army from taking it. I did promise you earlier that I'm not going to show you how I lay out all of my troops because that's a bit boring. I did it on the first turn just to give you an idea of what I like, how I like my thought process on setting up, I guess you could say. I'm not going to do it this time, but I'm just going to try to place all these troops in really prime ambush positions, and I will return when there is something interesting happening. Now, one thing I do want to do before I do that is if you look down here, you'll see how your companies are color-coded, which is really convenient if you're not aware. It's just a good pro tip to know. You can see right here at the beginning, you have this green set of counters, and that means this is a company. So this is the first company, and every single unit in here is a part of first company, and it's wise to try to keep them together. This would be another company, and this company is 7th Company. That's the 7th Company commander, and all of these units down here are his subordinate platoons. Just keep that in mind, but I'll go ahead and get us set up, and we will return whenever we see some action. Okay, so we have our troops lined out. Right now we're going to begin an artillery bombardment that's going to focus on these areas right here. I've got my artillery guy hotkeyed. We're going to start one here, then here, then here along these roads, which probably has the highest percentage chance of hitting Soviet troops. This is a scheduled artillery bombardment. I can't place them during the actual combat, so we went ahead and placed them there where we could and just guessed where we thought the enemy would be. And you can see by the Soviets shooting their flares to signal that they are beginning their movement that we picked a fairly good spot. We might hit some of them with those 10.5 centimeter artillery rounds that are called from off the map. You can see our primary objective right here, and here we have some infantry around them. I also tried to place them in choke points. For instance, I knew where they had armor and infantry mixed. The Soviets would most likely come down these roads through here. So I was sure to place infantry in those positions as well as our artillery. If you remember, we had some 88s, which hopefully we placed them in a really good spot.
And it looks like we already have combat going on. There's a 234 coming down the curve.
And here's our 88. We're going to wait for him to come down and hopefully pop him. And he's just marching right along. This could be perfect. I tried to place the 88 at choke points on this main road, which looks like it might work. We'll go ahead and tell him he can fire at will. And because I have this unchecked, this is fired infantry only, he will not fire at infantry. Hopefully they can take him out before he can do too much damage. Oh, hopefully that isn't fatal and they're just knocked out from the concussive blast. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a pack 5cm right there at the bend of the road. I mean, just meters away from the side of that T-34, just unloading on him. And he might end up doing more damage than the 88. Lost his track. Excellent. Excellent. We'll let these troops open fire. So that worked out fairly lovely for an initial engagement. I wasn't expecting their mortars to be this far up at the start of the engagement, but that worked out for us. You can see some of the tanks are funneling down this road. And I believe we have some AT over here. I don't think it's any flak 88s. We have a 5cm, I believe. Let's see. I can just select him here, hit Q to go to him. Yeah. And he's going to be right there. So we have a firing cone set up for 200 meters. If you click on them, this is a 200-meter radius because they're really not effective against any kind of medium armor unless it's within 200 meters, especially head-on. But right now we're looking okay. We're in a defensible position. And I believe our flak that was down here, the 88, the one that defended for us, I don't believe... Well, we lost 3 men, but they are still fully functional, and we took out a T-34, so I'll take it. The other flak 88, let's say Q to go to him, right there. If you can see, he has a really good field of fire. Unfortunately, it looks like the tanks did not come down that road. The one thing about AT is it is great for defense, but you definitely can't attack with it, but you have to set up well, or you're going to find them just being useless, like this 88 has turned out to be. These troops look like they're exposed. I'm going to go ahead and place them back here in these woods, have them take defense, just to get them out of the line of fire. So this tank's moving down the road. These troops are going to try to stay concealed. As you can see down here, we have that artillery from these LEFHs. Hopefully we can get a few direct hits on some of those tanks. They look like T-34s and they even have troops riding on them. If we can get a few direct hits, those rounds come down directly on top of that top armor. It's not very strong. You can knock the tanks out. Now that's a light tank, so this infantry may be able to take them out if they get close enough. What you do in that case is you would just remove the hidden icon, and then you tell them to fire at will, and they'll attack with any kind of AT weapons they have. Grenades, bundle grenades. It's 42, so they don't have actual handheld anti-tank weapons, but they have the bundle grenades that can work to take the tracks off of light tanks. I'm interested to see which way these tanks decide to go. I would have sent out scouts, like I would have selected some subsections of these units and sent them out to scout to be able to tell which way the tanks were going to funnel. Maybe direct my anti-tank weapons after that. But the AI went on with the attack as soon as that engagement started, which was really a wise move on the AI because it didn't give me time to set my anti-tank exactly where I would like them. And it looks like they're going to be coming down this way, which is not where I had my 88s, unfortunately. So this 5cm is going to have to do what it can. You can see him coming down. We're going to wait just a little bit before we open fire. This infantry is still hidden. Here comes the main T-34s. So, long term, this 5cm pack right here is not going to be able to hold off that entire column of tanks. We're just going to try to delay the action. This is a huge artillery bombardment. It worked out pretty well. The Soviets called that artillery bombardment, and it wasn't effective at hurting our troops at all. Around here, a light tank. These troops may be able to ambush. I don't think they have any AT weapons, however.
Might have this squad assault. Let's do it. Throwing those mines at it. And it looks like they were able to knock off the tracks. You can see that right here. That's great. So that tank is immobilized. It doesn't look like they're firing anyway. I'm not going to worry about anything right there. An immobilized tank is as good as a dead tank. Oof, you can see all those ATs, or all those tanks right there just concentrated. And you can see, obviously, these guys are just trying to take cover. Not much can be done. They really aren't in a position to retreat.
If they ran, they would just be exposed and they'd immediately get mowed down by those MGs on the tank. Look at that. Soviets have a captured Panzer. That is interesting.
Oof. And this platoon is just... there's really not a lot of hope for them. Oh, just overran.
Graviteam really just nails that feeling of the hopeless cruelty of war.
Look at our larger strategic picture, excuse me. I hear planes. Hopefully that's us. Don't see him on the map, but I hear him. Here they come. Here they come. That's what we needed. Look like Stukas. Yeah, those are Stukas, dive bombers. And hopefully they can locate these tanks and come down on them. That would just be incredible. Perfect timing. We really needed their help in defending this city, especially where I had those 88s not in a prime position. I'm just trying to keep my infantry hidden as well as I can until we can deal with some of this armor. There they go. Let's see. There they go. So they've seen the tanks. I'm going to go ahead and have this infantry platoon, which already disabled one light tank. I'm going to keep them hidden for now. I might be able to hide a little bit longer until those tanks get closer. Plus, these are not light tanks. It's a Panzer T-34. They'll have a really difficult time disabling that, unlike they did with that T-26. It's just a sheer amount of tanks moving forward. More dive bombers. Nice. Looks like a direct hit. You can see one T-34 has already been disabled. So the armor hasn't even breached into our primary defenses yet, and we've already disabled several of them. And they haven't even approached our AT. You can see the smoke columns rising up from the disabled tanks. So you can see the Soviet tank crew has exited that captured Stug. Look at this.
right on top of them. Hopefully they can take off the tread. They may end up surrendering. They put up some smoke to conceal. And he may even get stuck in those trenches. Just ran him over. So it looks like the tanks are going to fan out through this open ground here and try to take our objective over here. And being stuck and found out in these trenches would just be awful. Trying to hide in the grass, but oof. There he goes.
I mean, you can't run.
It's really best if they just try to hide. It's the best option as these tanks move out in the open field. If you hit this button right here, the reverse button, it'll take your AT unit out of the trench without them getting stuck. We're going to try to move them in a position where they can possibly flank at least some of those tanks that are moving in on that primary objective. Because they're not far down enough of the road yet for that 88 to stop them. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to have them come up through here and try to remain concealed and maybe get these tanks from the back. Or even right here. Let's move them here. Some of these tanks are coming down into range of our 88s. Looks like they're looking for him. They're not quite in range. And that's just a 3.7. He can't do anything, so we're going to have him withdraw and retreat. These troops here, I want to get them out of harm's way. Hopefully also draw them to the 88s. Maybe they can get out and draw them, the tanks, to the 88s in the process. So we got artillery dropping right where our 88 is. They're going to get lit up. But I can't see anything. But they are firing. We may be able to bring them just up to here. Hopefully our 88's still okay, because that's really our last line of defense. Oh, and the gun is just completely destroyed by the artillery bombardment. And there's our 5cm we tried to move up in support. We'll have to withdraw and cede that position. We still have the majority of objectives. We did disable quite a few tanks. Our 88 took out a tank, but it was destroyed, unfortunately. And this one we had placed over here, it just ended up, that's just the way you roll the dice. I really thought a lot of them would come down through this road. Turns out none of them did. They all came down through here. That well-placed artillery bombardment by the Soviets, right when they were pushing through with these tanks, took out our 88. Let's go ahead and take a look at the statistics. Looks like we had weighted platoons of 320 compared to the Soviets' 844. The reason they have such a higher weight than us is because of all the armor they had. In service, we had a total of 346 to their 422, and our casualties were 99 compared to their 80. So
It was, we withdrew the city. We were able to disable a lot of their tanks. I think really this engagement, even though it is recorded as a total defeat by the mathematics and Graviteam, I think we did exactly what we set out to do. We disabled a lot of their tanks. We had to make the Soviets wait another turn to get those objective points, and we didn't lose. It wasn't a total loss of all of our forces. We actually were able to destroy 3 of their tanks and disable some of their trucks and APCs. And the name of the game here is we're just trying to slowly delay that spearhead.
Okay, so after that morning assault on the town, we've managed to keep the town split. We haven't given up complete ownership of it to the Soviets. That's excellent. I wasn't expecting that at all. I thought that after that assault we would for sure fall back and give it up completely. We did lose an 88, but that's not too bad. It took out a T-34 itself, and we did disable a ton of light tanks and some T-34s through the air support that we received with these Stukas. On the flanks of our lines, on the west and the east, we did have to fall back, but we still have this objective point. We haven't fallen back so far that we've given that up. We still have our objective point here as well, with some fresh 88s coming up, and those Stug 3s coming up to help with defense of the city. I think we're in pretty good shape. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next turn, and I'm also going to go ahead and work on replenishing my units and making sure they have everything that they need. So with our 3 battle groups that are in the red, there's really not too much we can do for them. I went into the reserves and checked. And this unit says it's encircled, so there's nothing I can do with it anyway. I'm not sure why it is encircled, but it is. So we went ahead and given them all the support that we can. And it looks like historically there was actually a gap that was created. So, it seems like we've had our asses handed to us, but sometimes it's easy to think your situation is worse than it really is. We've disabled a ton of their tanks. We've had some success with those airstrikes. We haven't given up that much ground, really. The town's still split. All in all, yes, our losses are heavier than theirs, but for what we've got compared to what they brought to the table, I think it's been pretty successful. Okay, so if you look at our strategic map, you can see I concentrated all of our forces in this area right here inside the town. That's to the south, because if you look up towards the northern square, you'll see that there is not only not an objective there, but it's blacked out, which means ownership cannot change during the turn anyway. So I have all my forces focused right here in the town here, and we're going to try our best to maintain possession of it. I think there's a chance we could. We're definitely outnumbered. With all that armor going up against us, but we do have some 88s. We've got several of them, and they have good field of view right along this road here. You can see that guy, and he has a partner. Where is he? There he is, right there. So we have 2 88s on this road, and he has some infantry and Stug support in front of him, as you can see, and they also have good field of view and field of fire. We have another set of Stugs, I believe. Where are they? There's the 88. There's a Stug next to him. And you can see they have good field of view and fire as well. I've told them not to fire at infantry. I want them to fire at will and remain hidden, but I want them to fire at armor only. And hopefully this artillery barrage I'm hearing will not harm our troops too much. Can't even find out where it is. Oh, here it is. Okay. So it's close, but it's not directly threatening our troops yet. We'll see what happens here in a few seconds. Sometimes it gets zeroed in and gets closer to your troops. So, and you can see most of our troops are stationed right here, which right now it looks like that artillery is kind of zeroing in our position. We really need to keep those 88s safe. That's our primary defense against that armor that's going to be undoubtedly coming. I do think a lot of Soviet troops are going to funnel through here along these roads. It's kind of clear. We have a 5 centimeter up there towards the beginning of the road as well. Good fields of fire. And so long as that Soviet artillery doesn't destroy us, I think we're set up fairly well. It's going to be a tough fight. It depends how much they commit, because you have to remember they don't know, the AI doesn't know the exact forces we have. We've got our own artillery going right there as well. .88s are opening up. Oh, come on. Shots look high. just high. That range is far. That's a tough shot, man. Looks like we hit him. Nice. Second 88 here. That's got to be 1,000 meters. Oof. Got some MGs opening up. MGs have a range of about 1,000 meters as well. It looks like we took out a KV with those 88s. That's nice. I mean, but you're looking at a kilometer, and the 88 still being able to take out something as heavy as a KV. That just shows you the power of those flat guns and why the Wehrmacht deployed them in this battle. And it's just a good position. I don't know if they have visual on them. Those trees may be in the way. It's a close call either way. I think that was the Stug opening up. So right now it looks like the Red Army isn't advancing. And the troops right here, it looks like they've abandoned the gun. Obviously I'd like him to go back and reman it. As of right now, we've got columns coming down of armor. Down that main funnel where I thought they'd come. I'm hoping they're not going to come down through the woods. I'd really like them to come out and stay in the open through here. And that way these 88s can't open up on them. Where are those 88s? There they are. Stug's still here providing support. We just saw him fire. So we've got some long-distance skirmishing going on. Nothing major yet. I'm wondering when the AI is going to fully commit and send all that armor down, though. It looks like they're holding back a little bit. Let's go ahead and have these troops just open up fire completely. Make sure they're not concealed. Let these guys all fire at will. Man, that is a lot of armor. Oh, motley crew of red armor. T-34, KV-1, T-26, no rhyme or reason. I really can't believe those troops over there abandoned that flak. They really shouldn't have ditched that AT. Stug's over here still providing support. I mean, this is a really strong defensive position. It may be, topography-wise, the best defensive position we've had yet. We're still a little undergunned, but we'll see what we can do with it. Got at least a platoon over here moving to the north. Even though we don't have any troops in the north, we do have that area covered. We'll go ahead and let these guys open up. See if they can do some pot shots. These troops still haven't gone back to their gun. You know, I don't think the gun's damaged. I really think they just decided to abandon it. Let's see. Oh, now the loader is broken. Okay. So it is damaged. We may be able to repair it for the next turn if we hold our ground, so I just need to keep that in mind. There we go, open back up. We are really testing the ranges on all of these guns. I mean, we're talking excess. I mean, really, I'm telling you, we're looking at about a kilometer here. Got our Stugs and our infantry opening up. Well, we need them to hit that infantry to keep them from advancing. They're going to swing around up here up to the north, come through the town, but we're protected on that front as well. If they're trying that without armor, it's not going to work. And as soon as this infantry does try to come swing through here, we're going to have those Stugs just waiting. Got our spotter using his MG. Still not a lot of movement from the Russians. There's that brutal hit with that 88 on that T-34. I thought it was a KV-1. So we've got some artillery down there. One of our 88s got destroyed. I don't know who hit him there. Let's see. Got those tanks cresting. You can see them right on the horizon. Several of them.
Sorry, choked up on that smoke there.
Got it. Oof. I don't know if that round penetrated or not either. Hi. Lost our gunner. Probably could have waited if they got a little closer, but these 88s are deadly at any range. And historically, really, especially in 42, the T-34s, their barrels just, they weren't accurate enough at the kilometers. Statistically, I feel like we should have the advantage at these ranges, but it's not really looking like that, is it? Especially with those HE rounds they're lobbing at us. We'll go ahead and back this Stug up. Move him to those woods for some protection from those tanks. Stug 3 is a short barrel right here. You can see it right there. They're not meant for engaging armor at all, especially at 1,000 meters. That armor still isn't moving. It isn't engaging yet. I think they're just out of sight of each other. We've got some more armor coming up around here. Let's push this Stug back out. Do a little recon. See what we can find. Because there is some infantry up there. And that low profile on the Stug, I mean, those T-34s were really giving our 88s some problems, but that's because they had those HE rounds and there was an explosive radius. You'd have to, with a T-34's barrel, which is not that good at that range, you'd have to hit that Stug dead on, and it's got a low profile. Now those are our artillery pieces, which is good because remember that infantry swinging around in the northern part of the town, they might have been right in that area, right when that artillery was just raining down on them. There's also some infantry crossing up here along with some armor. And that's what that Stug's doing right now. He's going to see if he can take some of that infantry that's trailing. You can see that green flare signifying movement from the reds. So it looks like that artillery may have been spot on. There's that infantry still moving up on the horizon. So it looks like they're committing, but we're well defended. 88 still okay. It still has 81% of its ammunition, but let's check and see. Yeah. Oh, all it has left is high explosives. That's no good. Here comes a large segment of armor coming up from the tail end of that artillery bombardment. KV-1s, of course. And that side of town really isn't set to defend against heavy armor like that. So they're going to enter that northern side of the town and it's going to cause us some problems. I can't tell how many there are. I think it's just 2. Let's see what these Stugs can do. Maybe they can take care of some of that infantry. I don't know what we're going to do about those KV-1s. There's only 2 of them, though. It's hard for armor to do anything unsupported. You can still see that infantry swinging around. Stugs should be opening up pretty soon. There they go. KV-1. Ooh, he just took a round. I don't know. I didn't know we had any AT in the area. Took another one. Where's that coming from? Ooh. Well, maybe the Stugs can get the tread off. That's always a possibility. Just love hearing those Wehrmacht soldiers scream, Panzer! No, they're shooting at it, though. Look at that low profile on that Stug. That would be hard to hit at range. Kind of getting an overview of the battlefield. That armor over here, towards the east and the southeast, is still stationary. I don't know if they're going to commit with an attack or not. They may not think it's a good idea. I mean, if they were aware of how short we were on ammunition and how undergunned we are, they would. Yeah, look at that, it's only got those HE rounds. That 5 centimeter can open up on that infantry. Go ahead and remove that cone. Now they'll start opening up with those HE rounds. That armor's holding back a little bit on the northern end of the town. So 30 minutes into 11 o'clock, really, I mean, there's no assault coming. The northern end's where it's really happening. Still have a little bit of AP left, but they're just way too far away to do any damage. Let's see if I can get this Stug to back it up a little bit, do some hunting. So if your armor ever is dug in, like that Stug, just be sure to hit that reverse button. And that'll get him out of there cleanly. He won't get stuck. Maybe we can move up through these trees. Tell him to fast move there. Give him some waypoints with the shift key. I can tell him exactly where I want him to go. Use the cover of these houses to get through. Now let's do this. Here. Here. And here. Get up pretty close. Oh no. Oh, not what we wanted. That one's on you, buddy. I'm not taking the blame for that. Oh, look at that. Right in the old back end. That's unfortunate. Not taking the blame for that, though. Go, 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 man. So looking at our strategic map, we're holding strong. That armor up there, still not moving. Up north is where the main attack's happening. It's kind of like a swing-around movement. But that artillery bombardment helped to hold back the infantry. And with those KV-1s, I think there's only 2 or 3 of them. I mean, you can come through, but when you're unsupported, there's only so much you can do against infantry that's entrenched. Took a shot right there. There's that Stug. I'm gonna go ahead and reverse him. He's not really doing much there. There's our other Stug. He's already lost his tracks. I don't want the same thing to happen to the other guy. Alright, so now he's behind the houses. He has a little bit of cover, and we can keep him in reserve until we really have a use for him. I'm gonna go ahead and back him up along this road, actually. That way, get him out from this long-distance engagement, away from all that armor, maybe move him in through the town and provide support. So the KV-1s are coming up now. I do think they may have expended a substantial amount of their ammo. And like I said, they only have so much effectiveness that 2 or 3 tanks are going to have. They really don't have that infantry support they need. That'd be an ominous thing to see, wouldn't it? Just do the best they can and hide. Because you're not going to do anything against that heavy tank. Oof. Spotted. He's going to pop out from that brush any second right over top of him. Well, he passed right by that trench. He may not have seen him. You got to think of how limited the visibility is on those tanks. You play a lot of other games, you know, don't realize that a lot of those tanks in the 40s just didn't have any visibility at all. And I mean, you could legitimately roll over a trench like that, or maybe not roll over it, but go right past a trench like that and not even see it, especially where those trenches, they're buried deep in the brush. Here comes the rest. Ooh, he forced some people out of that trench. They didn't want to get ran over. Ugh. I don't know if you saw that, but that troop just threw a bundle grenade. There it goes. Didn't have any effect, though. Sometimes those bundled grenades can knock off the tracks. That's about the best you can hope for in 42. Troops didn't have handheld AT. There's that Stug that was going after the infantry earlier. Now the KVs are just really rolling. I don't know, you could actually see the grenade stuck to the barrel. I've never seen that in Graviteam. Here's that Stug that we called up from the other side of the map. We're going to bring him through the town and see if maybe he can at least knock the tracks off of those KVs. Let's see what he can do. Maybe I can get behind him. We are at a disadvantage technically because we don't have a rotating turret on those Stugs, but he's right behind him. A little chase through the brush. Ooh, there's the other KV. Take a shot at him. Oof. Ah, his track's knocked off. Wasn't worth it. I don't even think he did any damage to the KV. Man, that was a waste. Now we have guys surrendering. The only thing on our side is time right now. 15 minutes until noon. Yeah. And then the turn will be over, so hopefully we can hold out that long. We still hold the town. But they really can just roll right through. They've decimated our AT. Oh, there it goes. Gave it up. We just don't have the AT capabilities. It's that simple. We'll have to come back. Counterattack. I think we held them long enough. Till noon, not bad. Okay, so this battle is not for any objectives. There's no point value to it. We're simply playing to delay the enemy advance. I've got a lot of my troops stationed over here in the woods. And this company, I believe, they're part of the 1st Company and the 261st Infantry Regiment, which, if you remember, that was one of the regiments that got torn apart in some of the earlier engagements, so they're a little low on ammo and morale. Looks like the majority of the enemies coming up through here. I do have 188, and I do expect armor to push, so I have them stationed here in this gully. I don't want them firing from long range and get taken out like has been the case previously. So they're down here in this ditch, and by the time they see any armor, they'll be up fairly close to them and be able to hit them underneath as they crest that hill. So like if you look down here, you can see where the trajectory would go, and hopefully it would get underneath some of those tanks. Give it a good firing position. We've got other infantry just laying around up here, up a little high, hopefully where they can remain hidden in that tall grass, and they'll be able to see as the tanks approach without them being exposed themselves. I do see the green movement flares for the Soviet Union, and that's our artillery. Again, it's scheduled support, so you have to schedule the support before you begin the engagement. It's incendiary, because fuck them. And I just have it going after one of their objectives, because a lot of times when you do artillery strikes, especially if it's scheduled and you're on defense, you just have to kind of guess where you think the troops will be massed in the beginning of the engagement. A lot of times the major roadways will work. You just get a feel for it after a while. Now, one thing I am going to do is I saw some troop movement up here. I just want to see what kind of troops. Oh, there's some infantry. I'm going to go ahead and take this unit right here. I'm going to hit the Alt button and click them, and that way it selects a subsection of the squad. It only selects 1 or 2 soldiers. Hit Control 1 to hotkey them, and this guy is going to be my scout. Now I'm looking over here. You see this U-turn symbol. I described it earlier, but it means it's checked, which means if he's out of range of his commander, he'll try to return to him once he's out of range. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to turn that off, and we'll see if we can get him into a good vantage point. I think I'll have him come up this road. Right here looks good. He'll have a good view. So I'll tell him to move covertly. And if he doesn't move fast, I'll go ahead and tell him to move fast. I don't think he will unless I actually modify the order wheel. So I'll go ahead and click move fast, and he'll move fast to it. And that way, whenever you do those scouting orders, if you tell them to move covertly but also tell them to move fast, as long as the hidden icon is checked, they'll run, but they won't be stupid about it. So they'll try to keep quiet, and then if they do come into sight with infantry, they'll drop to the ground and try to remain hidden. It's basically just telling them to move fast but move smart. That artillery strike's still going. We have a whole platoon right there, so this is a perfect ambush opportunity. Perfect. I'll select all my units here, and once they get close within firing range, I'm going to make sure I take them off of hidden, so they'll ambush them quickly and tell them to fire at will. Let's do it. Now what I may be able to do is if I can find some troops that are fresh... Ooh, here's some mortars. This will be perfect. I'll tell them to fire at will. Unfortunately, they can't see. And I don't think their commander has a view to relay the orders to them. I'll move them right here. Let's see. I'll tell them to do a firing lane right here. And hopefully that commander will be able to relay the order to the mortars. It looks like he can't see. Let's try here. I'd really like to get those mortars opening up, at least to suppress that advance. It's still not filling up. Let's see, I'll go ahead and move them on up to give them a good vantage point. And that way, hopefully, the artillery lane will start to fill up. Oh boy. Huge infantry formation, just coming down in that wooded position. We really need those mortars to fire. There's our 5cm. He has some HE rounds, so he may be able to help with that infantry advance. I'll go ahead and get rid of that firing cone so he can just open up on that infantry. He might be down too low beneath the crest of the hill, but... he just doesn't have a field of fire. That's a little better. I don't know why. We have these mortars, they're huge. They're really big mortars, and for some reason they only have one commander. If they had two commanders, we could have one guy do the spotting and another guy relay the orders, and we'd be able to lay down that fire really well. Hotkey that 88, control 9. There goes the mortars. It might cause a little bit of suppression now. But he still can't see. Ooh. We've got to get those mortars going. That guy's injured. So now you can see the mortars firing. Let's go ahead and move these guys forward as well. Have them take defense right at the edge of that tree line. Help those other platoons. I think what I'm going to do is just have these mortars move up, and that way they are within shouting distance of their commander, and if he can see any kind of troops from his vantage point, he'll be able to call out to them where to fire those mortars, rather than trying to actually dictate artillery firing lanes. There's that 5cm, and he is beneath the crest of the hill, so he can't help right now. I don't want to move him up, though, because if I do... Ooh, there's some tanks. If I did move him up, he'd probably expose himself and he'd get taken out, so for now it's just best to leave him there. I'm just going to maintain this position. If they do push past through the woods, that'll be okay because we have all these troops in the back, and they'll just run into them as well as these fresh 88s. I really don't know if they're going to make it past that wooded position, however. See the T-34s coming around the road. Ideally, they're going to go right to the path of that 88. Ooh, and those Soviets are really pushing up. We have a few of them going to the tree line. See those mortars finally going off, decimating them. Those mortars definitely came in handy. There's a black flare which signifies contact with the enemy, or within visual range. Oh, this will be perfect if he just comes over that crest. There's our 88, right here waiting. Here he comes. Little further, man, just a little further over that hill. Just start to see him. There he is. Nice. Did that penetrate? Ooh, that did. That was exactly what we needed. Exactly what we needed. Still have the other 34 though. Oh, he took a shot too. Looked like the 88 hit him there too. Or was it the 5-6? Lost his tracks. Yep, you can just see that 88 over the hill. And it looks like they're going to get out. They're going to abandon it. It'll be a captured tank. I don't know if you remember, but we had our lone scout right here, brave man. He's got a good field of view. Doesn't look like there's any troops coming from that direction. And then we have the abandoned T-34. Oh, there's some ammunition going off. You know, that's one of the cool details about Graviteam, man. Like, you see tanks get hit, the tread comes off, they just roll down hills. The physics on it are great. If there's ammunition inside, it will explode. I mean, honestly, you know, you hear some people say that Graviteam doesn't have the best graphics, but I have to completely disagree with that assessment because, I mean, I play a lot of games like this. I mean, look at those smoke columns. But, like, you play a game like Still Division, which is a great game in its own right, but all the animations are canned. Nothing in Graviteam is like that. Everything is done in real time, and everything is variable. It's not like a round's going to hit a tank and it's just going to have that canned animation where it explodes. It's going to all be just assessed independently and displayed graphically independently, and I think it's so much more realistic. And the step just looks beautiful on this game. So it's looking like we may have won the day here. See what other troops we can find. We'll go ahead and tell these mortars to hold their fire. There's no use in wasting it right now. They were really effective at suppressing that advance, though. You can select him by clicking and dragging, and then control-click the other one. And there you have it. I think this may be the first engagement where we managed to repulse the spearhead. We didn't just slow it, we actually repulsed it. So maybe this is a sign of things starting to turn around. That emplacement of the 88, it really worked out well for us. We were really fortunate. But go ahead, I'll call that truce because I don't want to push anything. Okay, so our after action screen is a total victory. They had 2 times the weight of us, which isn't really that much of an advantage when you're attacking. It's not like we did anything great here. It's about even, really. You really want to double your weighted forces when you're attacking. Total losses, we had 315, 32 casualties, and they had 88 casualties out of 393. The main thing is we're continuing to chip away at that armor. There's those 2 tanks we destroyed. We also held our objective, so looking good, looking good.
So here we are at the end of turn 3, and I have to say I'm fairly happy with the defensive position we're in. This belt right here is unbroken, so we don't have any danger of encirclement. And even though you can look at a lot of our battle groups and you can see those red pulsating circles around them indicating they're in poor condition, you have to remember that we have also whittled away at that Soviet armor spearhead. So we're feeling it, but they're feeling it as well. If we go to the operational statistics, you can see we've lost 524 soldiers to our 662, so we have lost 662, and they have lost 524. So even though we've lost a little more soldiers than the Red Army, that's to be expected because we are infantry-based, where they are armored-based. So if you go and look at the tanks we've destroyed 19, nearly 20 tanks. And I don't know for sure, but I would, if I had to estimate just from what we've seen so far, I'd say that might be close to 50% losses on the Soviet part. So we are slowly damaging that armor, and I think it's going to help us be successful down the following turns. We'll return to the main menu here. We'll see that we did give up the main town right here, which was unfortunate, but those are really the only 2 objective points that we have given up so far, and I'll go ahead and take that. So the decision right now is if we are going to go ahead and try to maintain this defensive line, or try to give our troops some breather and pull back a little bit. I think what I am going to do is try to go ahead and hold the line, because even though we are highly ragged and damaged right now, like I said, the Soviets are as well, and so it's just a guessing game. The Soviets may take a breather on the next turn as well. I don't want to give up these objective points for naught. So we'll go ahead and go to the next turn. Take a look at our briefing, and historically it looks like the Wehrmacht was able to hold the town position, and we were not. However, they gave up a lot more ground on the eastern side of the map, which we did not. We're still down here. We still hold these objective points. So we're just going to continue to play it out. It's 1400 hours, 2 p.m., and we'll see how things turn out.
Hey guys, I know I said that I'd get the entire operation in one go, but we're getting on to an hour 30 now and my editing software is pushing its limits. But I am in the process of making the next video and it will be coming in a few days. Thank you all so much for watching, and a special thanks to the subscribers. We're nearly at 500 now, and that's awesome. I really hope you enjoyed watching because I love sharing content with you, and the next vid's going to be a lot of fun when we get those panzer platoons and get a chance to return the favor.